This is the Authentic Change Podcast, and I am Mike Horne. Authenticity reflects what we want from each other and our organizations: open communication, trust, community, fun, and opportunity. I want to help you to do your best in your personal and professional relationships. This podcast delivers expertise, insights, and approaches on authentic leadership, to live your purpose, to lead from your values, to establish connected relationships, to steward people and culture change, to build and sustain prosperity, and to open doors and possibilities. This podcast will assist you in paving the way forward to personal, team, and organizational prosperity.
Welcome to this edition and this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast. I am absolutely delighted to have in the studio today Emily Winston. And her enterprise, her passion, where she is the founder of Boichik Bagels in Berkeley, California, and reminiscent of an original H&H in New York City. I'm going to let Emily tell her story. It's an amazing story, and I'm just so delighted. And what I really want to focus on with Emily today is about scaling a business and about growing a business and about the kind of leadership that takes, moving from a retail operation to a larger operation. But Emily, welcome. I don't want to say much more.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was so inspired by the bio sketch that you told me, and I was, typically in a guest introduction, I'm reading, they went to school. Emily went to Cornell, or they did this or they accomplished that. But there was such a warmth in that story. I wonder if you could tell about the origin story behind Boichik Bagels.
Sure. Well, so I know this is a different kind of story, and it was totally by accident. I never grew up thinking I was going to have a bagel shop. Not in a million years would I have guessed that I'd wind up where I am today. So I grew up in suburban central New Jersey, Jewish.
Which exit?
Exit
On the
123,
turnpike.
Exit 123, and close and exit 11 off the turnpike.
Okay.
So actually very close to the intersection of the two.
Right.
And eating a lot of bagels. That was very much part of our standard family tradition. Is Sunday morning, my dad would go out to the local bagel shop, buy a bag of bagels. We'd have bagels and cream cheese and lox, and the Sunday New York Times would be spread around the kitchen table, and you'd enjoy your section and then pass it around. It was great. That was the standard thing. And any leftover bagels at the end of the meal, my mother would slice up and put in Ziploc bags in the freezer, and then you could just enjoy them the rest of the week. You take a half or a whole bagel out, throw it in the toaster. Boom, you've got a great bagel all during the week. So, that was just my default that I grew up with. Meanwhile, if my dad went to New York City for work and happened to be on the Upper West Side, he would go to H&H and Zabar's. And so Zabar's, of course, the most famous lox slicing counter on the planet, get lox and sable and whitefish and chive cream cheese, and go across the street to H&H and buy those bagels and bring them home. And we were so excited that we would have that for dinner. That was like, Dad's bringing home H&H. It would be a thing. It's like we came home from school and it's like, oh, Dad's bringing home H&H tonight. It's like, oh my God, it's so exciting. So we'd have our bagels and cream cheese and lox for dinner. And then the rest would go in the freezer. And so that was like the holy golden bagel experience that I grew up with. And, a few times that he'd take me, he loved him. My father is a food chemist, consulting food chemist. And so, which actually played into where I am today in a big way.
Uh-huh.
He would take me, sometimes he would take me around to visit clients. At one point I helped fix Streit's ancient matzah oven on the Lower East Side, but we'd go places and he'd take me to Zabar's. And I remember going to Zabar's and it was like, oh my God, this is like the holy grounds.
Right.
It was very exciting. So, very core memories as a child. And fast forward many years, I find myself in California and these bagels are not good. So I stopped eating them. And that's the thing. Every time you meet an East Coaster in California and like, oh, you're from the East Coast too. Oh, there's no good bagels here. That's the first thing That's like the greeting.
Right.
And how you like bond as being a fellow New York area expats. And then you complain about the pizza. This is for many years. This is like the standard greeting upon meeting someone from where you were. So stopped eating them entirely and would just wait until I went home to visit and eat my fill of bagels. And then one day I got news. It was a little belated, but I'd heard that there was a problem with the H&H store on 80th and Broadway that had been shut down. But apparently the factory was still producing bagels. Anyway, there was something that I went to look, and it turned out that the factory had been shut down also. And it was just gone and done. And I was so devastated that this had happened, and like no one told. It was like someone died and no one told me, and I was so upset that I would never have my like holy bagel ever again, and it was just gone forever.
Right.
Thought, well, gosh, maybe I could figure it out, because at exactly that time there were some pop-ups here in the East Bay and San Francisco who were working on doing. They're saying we're making a real New York bagel. We're starting to, and I had one that I thought was pretty good, but it wasn't quite my beloved H&H. But they were modeling it more on actually this. I think it was Bagel Hole from Brooklyn that they were trying to achieve. And so they had made a really good bagel, and they were a pop-up in San Francisco. And I'm like, well, apparently there's that whole myth of the water. And it's like, well, if it can be done, if these people are actually successfully making a pretty damn good bagel, just not exactly the bagel I want, and it's also not convenient for me because it's in the city, I think it should be technically possible. It's technically possible to make the bagel I want to eat. So I just embarked on this new obsessive quest to recreate my bagel for me to eat. So it was just, I started just Googling bagel recipes and, just scouring the web for all kinds of information and cookbooks and talking to people. And it was a very slow, iterative process. And just, I call it, throwing darts. And I would write on a recipe, and I would make, change one variable, in a couple of ways, and make batches A, B, and C, a dozen of each. And I'd feed my friends. I had groups of friends. I would show up with 3 bags of bagels, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to take this. And I created a whole vocabulary very similar to wine tasting, where it's like, okay, we're going to have the bagel. We're going to smell the bagel. We're going to lick the outside crust of the bagel. We're going to, do all these things and
all the sensory.
Parse all these things and kind of create a framework for discussing these aspects of the bagel and how they're different, which one's the better one. And I just kept evolving. And 5 years later,
this is your food chemistry.
This is food chemistry. The thing is, I grew up doing this. My father would bring things home and be like, okay, we need to sample. Here's a panel of things. We need to try it and bake. That was part of the family thing. It's like, okay, everyone has to eat this and make notes. Which one is better? Which one is this way, that way? And so that was part of my childhood as a perfectly normal thing to do. You're supposed to critically taste things. So created that and got a great bagel. And my friends were like, these are amazing. You should sell them. And, at the time first it was like, oh no, like that's just, you hear those stories and it's, I went to school for mechanical engineering and I have a master's, and like, oh, well, I'm not going to, make bagels professionally. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not a chef. But I wound up getting pretty perturbed with the job I was doing at the time, which is like this more software, and it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. So I'm like, what, maybe I'll just take a whole look at this bagel thing for fun, because this could be fun. And I was coming out, I went through a divorce, and the kind of bagels kind of were one of the things I did to like kind of work on coming out of, hobby to come out of the divorce with. And this is fun and engaging and interesting. And every few years I would be like, I kind of want to get an MBA. I'll think about it, but then I would decide not to do it. So this felt like, I can kind of, give myself a little bit of this MBA experience I've been thinking about for so long. And the Bay Area has this rich food entrepreneurship scene.
Sure.
So there were classes I could take. So I started taking all these classes that were being offered around here and networking, and got invited to this pitch event that I attended. And the next year I was presenting on stage. And so things just really fell into place. And I went and got into this world with classes and networking, and things took off pretty fast. And one of the first things they said to me in the class was, that's really nice that your friends tell you how much they love your bagels when they're A, your friends, and B, they're eating them for free. It's a really easy thing for them to tell you. But how about strangers paying you money and then saying, this is great, I want to pay you money again? So that sounds like a very reasonable question to ask. Let's figure out an answer to that. So I got a cottage food license, and I got to be in the student booth at this one food festival. And I then, which was well attended, but more importantly, I got written up in the local East Bay Express paper the week after as this is the best bagel in the state of California. And then I did some pop-ups out of my house, literally had people show up, walk into the front door of my house in Alameda. And after that piece, the line was down the block.
Right.
Sold out in 10 minutes because all I could make in my house was 9 dozen bagels at a time.
Oh my gosh, right.
Because they have to sit in the refrigerator overnight.
Right.
So that's what, putting all my food in like one tiny corner of the fridge, and then I built all these custom racks that would hold dozens of bagels. So the whole fridge was filled up with 9 dozen proofing bagels. And that was all I could produce. So it was pretty silly and inefficient, but I was like, well, I've got the answer. I've answered that question. Yes. People who don't know me personally will pay me money for these bagels.
Did you limit it since you were only making 108 bagels a day, or?
Did I what?
Did you limit sales? I mean, you were only able to make 108 bagels.
Sold out. That was it. So like the time that was this line down the block, and it was only like the first handful of people got bagels, and then everyone went home without a bagel. Everyone else left to leave. And then I did. So then I think I was like, okay, the next time I'll just say like email the pre-order. And then I was inundated with 100 emails, and then I had to spend 2 hours writing, being like, sorry, I only have 9 dozen bagels.
And this is all you at this point. This is all passion.
This was just me. Yeah, this was me. Yeah, this was me. Actually, I had a friend who has a Vespa. Then I was like, let's do delivery, because this was my first idea. I'm like, it'd be fun to deliver the bagels to your doorstep. So we had her we did a couple, at least maybe 2 times where I said, okay, order, send me an email to order the bagels, and then we're going to deliver it to you. My friend's going to, and so we packed up the bag, and she took like 4 bags on her Vespa at a time. And it was mostly like, maybe it was just in Alameda. Now I forget exactly, but it was really cute. So we did bagel delivery right at the get-go. So it was,
on a Vespa, no less.
But it was really only a handful of times. And I did a couple pop-ups at a few different establishments because I got invited to, and I thought that would be interesting to try. And those worked well. But I was right away, I'm like, well, I got my answer to that question right away. The answer is yes. And now, but I'm like, but this is a real pain in the butt. It's 7 hours of work to make 9 dozen bagels. And that's not even including cleaning up my kitchen full of sesame seeds when I'm done with it. I'm like, this system is not a business model that I'm interested in. This is a grossly inefficient way to do anything. This was just a proof of concept as far as I was concerned. So I'm like, okay, well, now I have the answer to that question. And it was time to do a lot of soul searching. And it was like, do I want to do this for real? Because as an engineer, I looked at it, and a lot of people said, oh, you should go to commissary kitchens. So I looked at them like, that's just a larger version of my kitchen. The bagel really wants very specific equipment in order to do it efficiently. And hand rolling is a ton of work. It's a super stiff dough. I had started developing carpal tunnel problems.
Sure, right.
Towards the end of my what I was doing in my house. I'm like, this is not interesting. I want a bagel rolling machine. I want the oven that I see in every bagel shop in New York has this revolving deck oven. I'm like, it makes it way more efficient to make bagels than that. Like that, I'm only going to do it with the right equipment because I'm an engineer and I love equipment. So I'm like, I want the right equipment. I want it to be efficient, or I'm not going to do it. I like to say that engineers are inherently very lazy. We will spend like months and months and months to create something that'll save us 5 minutes, like a day for the rest of our lives. But that's like the mentality. And I'm like, I don't want to just throw brute work into this. I want it to be done with proper equipment.
Sure.
So do I really want to do this? Am I going to go in? And there was a lot of thinking, and I ran a lot of Excel sheets to be like, well, what if this happens? What if it takes off? What if it doesn't take off? What am I looking at? And eventually I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. This looks really good. This looks like it has a lot of potential in Excel. And, I was like, okay, where's the worst scenarios? I'm like, even the worst scenarios are probably manageable and could be okay. And I could live, I just don't see a complete disaster being likely here.
Right.
It could be awesome. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I totally emptied my whole piggy bank, and,
lots of courage in that act.
Yeah, it was scary. I've had a lot of stuff I've done is scary. It was a very to sign, and I'll get to the lease signing, but before I signed the lease, it was just, I had some real moments of like, this is, am I going to do this? This is, committing my life to this. And it was like, yeah, I am.
And how easy is it to source the ovens and the technology you needed?
Not terrible. I was actually trying to buy. Yeah, that's not so bad. But I did a lot of research in New York, buying,
right.
Going in like Essa Bagels. You can go and there's a window you can watch, and there's only certain ovens. I was trying to actually I had some drama because I was trying to buy this one oven that's not made new anymore. It was considered the Cadillac of bagel ovens, but there's only some floating around in the used market. And I was trying to get one of those. That was a whole tale of woe. And this guy in Ohio said he had 2, but then it turned out he was a meth addict, and it was a whole disaster. I wound up getting a different oven at the last minute, and it was another set of problems. But part of it was I was trying to be, do it on a tight budget and trying to be pretty frugal about it, because it was just me basically emptying out my bank account, and also I was able to raise money from friends and people in the community who I kind of on my mailing list. I said, does anyone want to lend me money to help, make my bagel business happen? And I did get a really nice response. But it was still really terrifying to spend at the time, what at the time felt like tremendous sums of money.
Sure.
This new oven, like I'm ordering new ovens for my expansion, and they're $50,000 a piece.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Right.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that's, now I'm used to these numbers, but at the time it was like, whoo, Lordy, I'd rather spend, 10 sounds a lot better.
Yeah, right.
10, 15 but I learned a lot in that process. And now I'm like, well, now I don't have time for used equipment anymore, because we have things to do. I don't want to deal with more math addicts. So, I'm in a different place now. Now that I have a business that's ongoing and generates cash every day, I'd say when I decided to start expanding this, I went through another similar, this is a big decision. I could just sit here with one bagel. I could stay with my bagel shop. It's been, huge accolades. I've accomplished so much more and so much faster than I really expected I would. And I could just sit with my one bagel shop, and that would be great and easy. But I'm like, I don't like things to be easy. And I'm an engineer, and I grew up playing all these really dorky strategy computer games like SimCity and Civilization.
Sure.
And so for
me, I have
a
daughter who's an engineer.
Okay. So you get it. So I'm like, I want to build stuff, and I like figuring stuff out and building it. So I'm like, no, I want to grow it. But it was another scary thing. It's like, okay, this is another commitment, but it was as scary as it's been to be like, I'm going to take on this huge expansion and fast. I told people it's less scary than it was the first.
Sure.
Because right now I have a business that's amazingly successful, and I have staff that's working with me, and I have all this stuff. I have all this momentum and goodwill, all these wonderful things. And very importantly, cash coming in the door every day, where the first time around, it was just me and my bank account that was dwindling. And so it's, as even though I'm doing this 10x jump right now, it still does not seem nearly as scary. I also, the first time around, I had this very serious concern. I'm like, what if I build this whole bagel shop that's modeled after the shops in New York? I'm getting the equipment. I'm doing all this research. I'm getting the same equipment. what if I go to make my bagel? I spilled this whole thing for $500,000. I go to make the bagel and it doesn't come out right.
Right.
There's something, or maybe there was something magical about my house or something. And
the water.
Yeah, the water in my house is magical meant for bagels, but I go, 5 miles away and the water is somehow totally different. And everything is wrong and everything. And it makes a mediocre bagel. Because for me, I'm like, it's not about being, even an okay bagel. I'm like, I want it to be this, it's got to taste exactly like this. It's got to be this amazing bagel. And if it doesn't, to me, that's a failure. It's not like I'm going for an okay bagel.
Is it the best product every day, Emily?
There's days where it could be, sometimes there's weather changes. It changes. Weather can definitely make changes, challenges in baking. So sometimes it's like, oh, there's a lot that came out looking funny today when we donate those. Baking is tough because it's an organic product. And there's things, and there's bakers we're training. So, there's days that, not every bagel wants to be photographed. I'll say that.
Right.
But the bagels are awesome.
What's the drive, Emily? The drive isn't bigger, I don't think, but maybe it is. I mean, what's the drive?
Oh, to go. Oh, what's
yeah? I mean, from starting, with baking some bagels with friends to producing 9 dozen bagels out of your home to a fabulously successful retail and a wholesale enterprise, I imagine. Mm-hmm. At this point, I mean, the accolades, the New York Times mentioned that probably created a lot of fire and momentum at the beginning. So what's the drive to continue to bring this?
It's had to change a bit. The first drive was just I wanted the intellectual challenge of recreating the bagel I wanted to eat. So that was the first thing. And it's like, okay, I made it happen. I'm like, I did it. That was deeply gratifying. And then it was, well, can I do it at scale? Can I make a business out of it? And so that was a huge challenge, and I did it. And then, really the big fantasy I had during that, I'm like, God, it would be so amazing if the New York Times one day was to say that my bagels were like good, or like, like I made a decent bagel that was worthy of the New York Times mentioning it as a decent bagel would be like the coolest thing. And then, they came out and blew that way out of the water. And it was like, wow, that's the fantasy just happened and was surpassed. What do I do next? But for me, I like to build. I like building. And so it's like, well, and I got, of course, with the New York Times piece, I was getting people asking who wanted to mail order bagels all over the country and internationally. People were like,
Belly and all the other distributors.
People wanted that.
Right.
I had someone in Ireland say, I haven't had a good bagel in 20 years. Could you ship to Ireland? And I'm like, no, I don't even know. No, I don't. And I don't want to get bagels to you and they're stale. So there's demand. And part of the Jewish diaspora is that there's now people, there's Jews and people who've lived in New York who then, spent time in New York and then moved elsewhere, who, got used to eating a great bagel and now they move somewhere else and there's like only mediocre bagels. So there's actually really tremendous demand for bagels in lots of places in the world, not even just in this country.
Oh, sure.
So I get people saying, and there's not that many awesome bagels all over. I get a lot of people saying, oh, I live over here. We don't have a good bagel. Could you open here? How about you open wherever it is that I live? And so people are asking for bagels all over. So I'm like, well, first I made the bagel for me, then I made it for my community. And so my job is to make great bagels happen in a wider and wider span. So that's the current goal.
It always sounds like you're solving, not solving, but understanding a new question.
Yeah, no, it's problem solving. Everything is,
and
it's engineering. Yeah, it's problem solving every day, and strategy. And I'm playing Civilization. It's a cross between like Civilization and like there's the Tycoon game. So it's like in my mind, there's like Lemonade Tycoon, and I'm playing Bagel Tycoon.
Right.
Like on the Civilization map in my mind.
There's one thing to solving problems. Problems are meant to be solved. Engineers are great at doing that, right? I mean, many engineers are great at that problem solving. And then there's a contrary point of view, which is about how do you appreciate all the good stuff that's going on at the same time? And I wonder how, how do you balance that in your role as a leader of an enterprise with employees and, the scaling challenges that you have?
How do I enjoy the moment?
That's a way to think about it.
There'll be times I just kind of stand in the back of the shop and look around, and I'm like, God, look what I built this. This is the coolest thing ever. No, I built this is like my favorite thing. And that's what just turns me on, is that I've created a thing. And it amazes me. I'll look around and I'm like, I can't believe that I pulled this off. It blows me away.
What about the challenges of managing and leading? A team that's grown from one person, helping you with the Vespa to the enterprise.
34 right now.
34,
I checked, and it's keeps growing. So that was actually my next biggest fear after will the bagel not turn out right was, oh my God, I'm going to have to manage employees. And that terrifies me. As an engineer, I say, people skills are not my strong suit. Not that I have, completely none, but I'm more comfortable fixing machines than HR issues.
Yeah.
A long shot. So that was really terrifying. And, there's been a lot of growth, a lot of very hard experiences that I've learned a lot from. And I've also been very fortunate. I've had some great help. I have a wonderful mentor who's been through a lot with me. I've had people come and just help. And I'd say, there's definitely been luck. And then there's been people who are a bad experience, and there's been a lot of people who've been a great experience and really helped make this happen. And I don't bring great management skills to the table. What I'm very excited about now is I hired, when I decided we're gonna grow, I want to make this happen, as I got a guy who has his whole career has been in restaurant operations. And so it's like basically my first executive level hire. So I brought him on, and it's this wonderful work marriage, because he just brings all these people. So he brings all these people skills that I just look at. I'm like, wow, that's amazing to me. I don't even understand what you're doing, and it's beautiful. So this is the cool thing for me, because it's like, I've always been a fan of business books and such for a long time. And it's okay, I know that's not my strong suit. And, so that's the nice thing about growing, is like, okay, look, now I should hire someone to take that over, because I know management is not, it was really tough for me. There was plenty of tears shed over HR issues. It was very challenging for me to deal with a lot, but it's like, this is awesome, because now I have someone who's really good at it. And so he gets to be in charge of a lot of that. And the management, I think strangely enough, which kind of surprises me, is that I seem to do have some pretty good skills as a leader, but just not really as a manager. So now that's the cool thing, is that I don't really consider what I'm doing now managing anymore. I'm just leading, and he gets to do all that management from where he's sitting.
So some of the distinction is around operational tasks and responsibilities. And is that how you would make some of that distinction?
I think just paying attention to a lot of the day-to-day stuff I get. Mm-hmm. So it's like, the cool thing is that now, and part of this, okay, we're going to grow. And for me, it's like, okay, I need to learn to delegate, and what I keep thinking of is I need to keep firing myself. I do a job, and then I need to fire myself and go do the next job. And then I need to fire myself and give that job to someone else. So like when we started, I had early in COVID, I hired a software developer, and we created this whole elaborate site thing on Shopify so people could pre-order. And also I really wanted to build my own delivery service platform, because I didn't want to use third parties, and delivery had been my idea since the beginning with the Vespa. So I'm like, let's have people order the bagels, but I want to deliver them not like Caviar delivers it, where you order and it comes to you, but
right
breakfast. So order it, the day before or a few days before, you're going to want breakfast on Sunday morning, and we'll go deliver all the bagels in the neighborhood like more like FedEx. So there's a route and it's just going to come to you at some point in the morning and there's bagels on your doorstep. So hired a guy, we built this website, started, so then I learned all this on Shopify, built all these things, got this running, and I was running that for, doing all of that, processing all the orders, building the delivery maps. And that I loved it because to me, it's like it is software and programming and optimizing. And then at some point it's like, now I need to, I'm going to hand that to my manager. Now I'm going to hand that to Rob. And now I'm only doing that if it's like, people are out or something or I'm stepping in or I'm helping to train someone who's new at it. But it's like, now that's not my job. I need to be thinking out the plant. I need to be looking at the next thing. And I really love that. So I either like to be like, in the dirt fixing something, or like with my hands full of grease, or like with a hammer in my hand, or more like living in the future or so, like a day-to-day thing. And someone saying like, I'm going on vacation and filling in hours and shifts and things is not my idea of a good time. I just don't. And also I'm just not, as any of my staff could tell you, I'm not, I didn't have any professional food experience. I don't feel, comfortable really in the kitchen. It's like, my job is I sit at the desk, and it's like, so I don't want to be, I'm not making bagel sandwiches. If I feel like I'm either like doing computer stuff and figuring things out, or I'm out front. I feel like it's more important for me. And this is one of my good friends even at the festival, that was his advice. We were at the festival. He's like, we got this, because I recruited all these friends to work the booth. He's like, we're going to make the sandwiches. You go out in the front of the booth and you schmooze, because that's the job
that's your magic. Right.
That's, and it's me. I'm the bagel evangelist who's spreading the good news of the real New York bagel.
The Boichik bagel, right.
So that's I'll go out and schmooze. And so that's what like the living in the moment. I'm better. Yeah. I like to be more like either in the future, or I don't know, in something very technical.
Yeah.
Don't deal well in like just day-to-day operations. Don't like jazz me. I'm just like, it's just another day in, another day out. But the cool thing is that Rob loves it. So it's like, that's what I think is so awesome. It's like, that's so great that you love this and I don't. So you take that part and you love it. And I'm going to be able to focus on the stuff that I love, or that just needs doing because I have to do it, until we grow to the place that then someone else does it. Like I do accounts receivable, and and it's like, okay, when we get to it, we grow a bit more, there'll be more of a proper, like a accounts receivable, like person. Someone's going to take that, and then I'm going to get to, I'll be finding something else to do.
Right. And that's the example of the technical work or the desk work that happens. One of my early mentors, Warren Bennis, made the distinction. He said that leaders do the right things, managers do things right. And I think there's some truth in that. I do wonder about culture a little bit and community, because most founders think about culture and community in their teams and in their organizations, and founders often have worries. So when we move from 5 people to 10 people, when we go from 10 people to 20 people, what is it going to be like? And what do you think about any of that?
That's huge. Because I've been reading the business books. I've been reading that stuff for quite a while, and that's
sort of the front person for Boichik Bagels, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. And right. I'm actually a huge fan of Ari Weinzweig, and I've given a lot of thought. We have a vision statement. I have a thing, and there's like a sign on the wall and I say that the big thing is be a mensch. So I bring that in. It's like, that's, and we're making, we have, really I've been putting like a lot of thought and effort into a cultural piece. Cause I'm like, this is the question is, as we grow, I want the food all has to stay the same. That's the whole point, is to have an awesome bagel, but I also want it to stay an awesome place to work. We have a really nice culture going. It's, and we have very low turnover because of it. And we treat our staff well, and we make it a pretty nice place to be, spending several hours of your day. And Everyone gets all the free bagels they can eat. It's just nice. I like to say my philosophy on business is, we're making a premium product. We're able to charge a premium price because we have a premium product. And that lets us pay our staff well. We can, have nice things. But if we have, actually, I'm just launching a 401k plan for the company.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we have health insurance. It's like, we can do these things because we have good cash flow. And then we can, if it's like, oh, this equipment isn't working so well, it's like, okay, let's buy it. Let's buy a new one. Let's replace it. And my thing is, I say one of the slogans is like, never stop learning. And people always, I'm like, if you have an idea for something, you think we should make a shelf over here and it should be how big, how wide. Staff knows if I'm running around with a tape measure that something's going to happen. And I'm always like, no, what do you want? Do you want it here? Do you want let's design it? We'll build it. We'll fix it. We'll modify it. We can do all these things. And that's me bringing my engineering to the table. And I do that. I'm like, well, what do you think we should do over here? Let's build this. Let's come up with a new thing. And let's make it better. Let's make it better. And we can spend money on it. And because we can.
Any concerns about, as you launch a second retail outlet in Palo Alto, how that might continue to shift and evolve the demands on you and your time and your leadership?
Oh, it's definitely going to be work. I'm not expecting to take it easy anytime ever, but I think to me, I'm having more fun doing this than I've ever had at any point before. I'm so it's funny because I always thought, oh, that sounds so hokey, but I totally have found my calling, and it's awesome. And it's a ton of work, but I wouldn't trade this for anything. And I expect it to be hard, and there'll be things, and I'm like, it's supposed to be hard, especially right now we're dealing with construction on 2 projects, and it's like, it's about, I remind myself it's supposed to be hard. I knew I was signing up for something hard. It's okay. It'll pass. I did it the first time. It was super hard, but we made it through. And it's just it's going to be awesome. It's okay that it's hard. And that's my job is to pick these things out and say, look, we're going to do it. And it's going to be hard. It's okay for something to be hard.
That's a great perspective, which I haven't heard condensed so briefly, I think, was if it's going to be awesome, there are going to be challenges. If it's going to be awesome, there are going to be some difficulties. There are going to be some problems. And that's a way of thinking about maybe, a different future as well as being grounded right now in the here and now. I mean,
there's also the Buddhist thing. I've got a little bit of that. I've been into a little bit of Buddhism and Stoicism, but it's like, life is suffering anyway. Basically, there's going to be problems. It's almost like, life, there's just going to be crap that's going to make you miserable no matter what you do. So you may as well do something hard and awesome because you're just going to, something else will I feel like when my life was a lot easier, I still found plenty of things to be unhappy about or that would be a pain in the butt. So it's like, I may as well be focused on these really interesting and hard problems versus, and be building something awesome versus being small and having smaller aggravations.
Be big. Right. It's just, how do you think about congruency? I mean, making sure that your thoughts, your words, your actions are all in alignment. I mean, what we might call integrity, what we might call authenticity. How do you manage all of that given, the demands that come in so many directions?
I think I'm a horrible liar. I really can't. So I think being authentic comes naturally to me because I don't really know any other way. I do get tired. I try to not be, miserable in front of staff at all.
Right. Yeah.
I'll wait until I go visit my, my good friend down the street at night and then vent if there's a problem. But I don't know. I think for the most part, I don't really put too much into that. It's aside from if I'm having a bad day to just try to keep that internal. I'd say that's really the only big challenge I have on that front.
If you were to offer advice or guidance or a tip to somebody who was in the same spot you were 3 years ago.
3 years ago, all right. So getting close to opening.
Right.
I tell people, actually, there's someone I saw recently who was in that spot, and she's like, I'm really scared. And I said, that's so you're supposed to be scared. That's exactly right. So it is. It's like you're supposed to be, and it's okay. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be scared. It's supposed to be hard, and you're supposed to be scared. And I have come across a line that says, "Courage is not being afraid. It's being afraid and doing it anyway."
Uh-huh.
And it's like, yeah, I feel like that's the advice. It's like, yeah, it's just. If you think it's going to be awesome, if you've done the homework and you're like, this is, I think this is going to fly and I've decided to do it, it's okay that it's hard and scary.
Yeah. And maybe that's what leadership comes down to. It comes down to these two things about you got to care about something and you've got to do something about that concern or care. And if you can bring that, you're well on the way to finding that awesomeness that you talk about in your business. Emily, it's been wonderful for me to have you as a guest on Authentic Change. I think all of our listeners who are interested about growing and scaling businesses and leaders' journeys can benefit a lot from this and your story and just the wonderful threads that come forward and hearing the momentum that you have now. I mean, having come through a launch and a pandemic and just really amazing to hear your story and what fuels it.
Cool. Thank you very much. It's been fun to talk to you.
And if people wanted to get what is the easiest way for people to access your business and find out where to get all your products?
Yeah, best thing is our website. It's boichikbagels.com and it's BOICHIKBAGELS.com. And so everything's there. And our, address, you can order for delivery all over the Bay Area. You can order for pickup from the store. When we get the other stores going, it'll have all the information is on the website.
Well, that's great. So I'd encourage everyone. This is the best bagel on the planet, produced with love. A great community that seems to congregate around this, and it's not just about the bagel. It's about the wonderful preparations that are done, the fishes that are available at the store. The tuna is just amazing. It's great. And, what I think about is the daily effort that it takes to produce all of this, great love in the world. And, we talk about sort of the highs of entrepreneurialism and the drive and the passion, and to do that every day consistently. Emily, thank you for you and your team for bringing all this into the world, and just continued success on this journey.
Thank you very much.
All right, until the next episode of Authentic Change, everyone, thank you and stay well. Thank you, Emily Winston. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll subscribe today and tell a friend about our show. If you're looking for hands-on help to increase your success through authentic change, or have a question you'd like to hear me answer here, please email me at mike@mike-horne.com.